Lot to say. How we feeling, Mets fans? First chiming in live on a replay. It's your guy Wardy here, and we're back at it with our latest New York Metropolitan post-game show, presented by our awesome sponsors here at BetUS, SeatGeek, and Moomoo, just to name a few, but we'll get into them more later, as we have to talk about what was nothing short of a godforsaken 3-game set at Citi Field. Feels so nuts to say that for a Mets team that entered this series far and away the best record in Major League Baseball at home. Yet all it takes is back-to-back games with your guy Wardy in attendance on Friday and Saturday to witness back-to-back disaster classes. And since the Mets blew that 4-run lead that they had on Friday, they unfortunately never looked back when it came to their losing ways. We get to the series finale today, Father's Day, and shout out to all my amazing Mets dads out there. From one new dad to another, I just gotta say it was an awesome treat today, all things considered. As much as it's doom and gloom here as someone who resides in Pennsylvania, as it's rainy and it's gloomy today, and the Mets get their absolute teeth kicked in 9-0 and the series finale, there were most certainly still positives to take away from the day overall. That was by spending the day with my family, my loved ones, my son as well, and I was just very appreciative of everything on the personal aspect of today. But when it came down to business and what I care about most outside of family and friends, which is my New York Mets and all you amazing lovely Mets fans, it was a sour taste in my mouth, to say the least. Right away in this ball game, Griffin Canning yet again batting practice, but not only is he batting practice, but the Mets fundamentals is also nowhere to be seen. You see a Tampa Bay Rays team that entered this series red hot, and mind you, they still dropped their previous 2 games that entered this series, if I'm not mistaken, but they were red hot prior to that. But I also don't want to use that as much of an excuse of it all. I need this to be a learning experience for the boys, because this is the first time this season the Mets have been swept, and this is also coming after the Mets swept back-to-back series. But what do those series have in common that the Tampa Bay Rays certainly do not? And that's that the Rays are a good baseball, not nearly as good baseball teams. You got the Washington Nationals that ended that series 8 games below 500, and then you got the Colorado effing Rockies. Look at the standings in case you don't know the story there with the Colorado Rockies. And then you add in the fact that after the Mets, sweep back-to-back series, continuing to dominate at home, they get their teeth kicked in and just looked like a far lesser ball club in a lot of aspects in this 3-game set. And this Mets team was 16-4 over their past 20 entering this matchup. So I don't want to hear it either that, it was one of those things where it was a lopsided affair and who was hot, who wasn't. Far from it, and the Tampa Bay Rays were without question the better team throughout this series, and they deserve credit. I'm going to give them the tip of the cap, rightfully so. And as we break down in today's ball game, folks, in tonight's post-game show, we're going to get into all the key details, not just from today's game itself, but overall from this series. What did not work so well for the Mets? How concerned should we be as Mets fans with this rotation, folks, because it is getting exposed big time. We expected regression to a degree. It was hard to envision the Mets having far and away the best pitching staff in baseball for pretty much all season long, when you had Griffin Canning, Tyler McGill, Clay Holmes, all to varying degrees helping lead the way. You knew it's going to rear its head at some point. So that's what we call an ebbs and flow of a 162 of a season. Nothing about that is surprising, everybody. But the perfect storm has commenced, and us Mets fans know this better than anyone else. Even with right around 20 games above 500, as I believe the Mets are now 45-27, so around 18 games or so above 500 on the year, still in a nice spot there in first place. But now you have a gauntlet beginning this week, heading into next week. 2 big series against the Braves, 1 at home, 1 away. 1 big series there in Philadelphia beginning this Friday, and I will be in attendance. I am on a 3-game losing skid at home, but I'm on a 1-game winning streak on the road, if not multiple game winning streak on the road, because I was in LA for the Mets game 1 victory in that 4-game set just not even 2 weeks ago. So hopefully I bring some good luck this Friday. I haven't brought anything but doom and gloom at Citi Field this past weekend, so I apologize, folks. I know the boys didn't step up, but clearly your guy Wardy didn't do a great job of representing the way that I otherwise want to do for each and every one of you. So we have a lot to get into this. We're going to break down not only what was abysmal on the pitching end, along with how concerning is the pitching, the defensive fundamental issues, Brett Beatty going down with injury. In case you guys don't know, Beatty is day-to-day with a what we saw there in a right groin tightness injury. He'll be fine, thankfully. The Mets have an off day tomorrow. He'll get imaging if they feel it's needed, but right right now they don't feel it's needed, as long as it's just a cramp and nothing more. Mets off day tomorrow should be huge to benefit them, and they're going to need this rest after what was a horrendous 3-game set against these Tampa Bay Rays. After we break down today's ball game and the key takeaways from the series, the good, the bad, and the certainly ugly, we will get into the potential resolutions for this Mets team. And this will be a further conversation that we will also have tomorrow, everybody, on the front of this Mets rotation. What is next for this Mets rotation? What is the best route for the Mets rotation to go down now with Paul Blackburn slotted in to be the Mets' Game 2 starter of the Atlanta Braves set there, starting this Wednesday in that series as Game 2 of the series for Blackburn getting the start. And while the Atlanta Braves did lose today somehow with Grant Holmes striking out 16 effing batters, and no, I'm not joking, but he had right around 16 Ks and still lost the ball game for the Atlanta Braves. That was as DeGrom-esque as I've ever seen it, everybody. So thankfully, Atlanta has been anything but hot, but all it takes is a big first series against the Mets this season to try to get them to start to turn the corner and get some momentum on their side. In order for the Mets to help avoid this momentum, that is what we're going to get into, what they need to adjust and properly take away from what was otherwise a godforsaken 3-game set there at home against the Tampa Bay Rays. But let's give a quick shout out to everyone first chiming in the live show, everyone watching live on a replay. I appreciate you guys greatly. And as you can see beside me, no, we are not showing any highlights today because there's nothing to show. The Mets had no hits whatsoever. They were at least 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position. Yet again, the Mets' runner and scoring position woes continues to become a great issue for this team when they lose ball games. I understand the pitching was largest to blame, but this is what we've been concerned about all season long, even with the Mets playing some good baseball. It's that even with them having their winning ways north of 20 games above 500, we have been bearing in mind, having in the back of our mind, as a matter of fact, that this is the exact same Mets team that has been right around at best league average with runners in scoring position. They have been abysmal in many stretches there by bringing in runners consistently. And while it is to a degree that, yes, they have a lot of guys that usually go on base when they're right, today was a prime example of that, getting a bunch of guys get on base and doing nothing along with it. Shane Baz should have got his tit slit that we saw in the 3rd or 4th inning, and it never happened. And that was just a continuation of the series after the Mets put up a 5 spot in the first half of that Game 1 of this 3-game set. But as we see here in the chat, everybody, Scott Greenwald, great member, happy to have you in here. Kevin Kane, how are we doing? DJ, how are you? Carlos, how are we doing? Going up the list here. Bill's Territory. And guys, please let me know all your biggest takeaways and reactions in the live chat in the comments down below. I'll be answering plenty of your comments, questions, and concerns before we get out of here today, because like I said, I got a lot to say. Bill's Territory, great member, happy to have you in here. We got Chalk Bunt, how are we doing? It's so, I didn't see what you said there. Has our elite pitching finally broke? Obviously, it finally broke, and it comes at the exact same time that Kodai Senga is out 2 to 4 weeks there with the 15-day IL stint, because of course it is. Let's see, bring back John Neese. I don't know what you're smoking, Mr. Chicken, but it's got to be that good. I saw John Neese at Mets Amazing Day. Haven't heard much about him since. Kevin King says, Canning only good when you don't know when the pitch is coming. He lets you know when his dumb, let's see this, when his dumb overhead motion now. We're going to talk about Canning and a bit on his mechanics and what's not working with him right now here shortly, everybody. Zach flared in with the $5 haul. Thank you, Zach. Zach states the following: Mets might blow 5-game leads to the Phillies twice in just the half a season. I'm not ready to accept that. Really frustrated. It is very frustrating, don't get me wrong, but you just have to hope that the Mets, in the case of blowing leads, that they're able to claw themselves right back in there, before it's too late. I don't think that they're hopefully going to have this seesaw too long all year long, but they do. They just have to make sure that they are best in the end. That's the most important thing. JTV, great member. Eric Douglas, great member. How we doing? Mr. Chicken, going up the list here. Will White, how are you? Greg with the $10 haul. Thank you kindly for that, Greg. And again, happy Father's Day to all my amazing Mets dads out there. I know it was not an amazing day to be a Mets fan. However, I'm sure it's an amazing day to be a father if you are, in fact, one of them. Greg with the $10 haul. I know correlation doesn't always equal causation, and that's 100% true, Greg. But isn't it interesting that almost from the exact moment Senga went down, this team has gone. No, it's 100% true. This is textbook Mets, and the sense of when one guy goes down, it's in a complete flux of how it impacts things, especially when it's your ace pitcher out of all guys. Remember, we almost blew the Nationals game. No, I remember clearly. I remember without a problem. Don't you worry. Since almost blowing that Nationals game, yeah, the Mets have not been playing the best baseball. Paradoxal, great member. How are you? Eric Douglas again here. Everybody chiming in live at a replay. Happy to have you guys. We're going to get on to breaking down not only everything that transpired in this ball game here shortly. We're going to rapid fire the horrendous takeaways from it, but we're also then going to get into, again, all the key things there on the front of how the Mets can go about rectifying what was a piss poor weekend there at Citi Field. We're going to emphasize a bit that you guys are going to see on the pitching end, and Griffin Canning, again, just absolute batting practice, folks. When it rains, it pours for Canning. And now Griffin, when we look at him, his first 6 starts of the season, everybody, just for some context, Griffin Canning posted a 2.36 ERA. He also posted a 1.26 whip. He also posted a 9 strikeouts per 9 and opponent batting average of 234. Since then, over his last 6 starts, he has a whopping 6.08 ERA. He's had an opponent batting average of 252, which isn't as high, but his strikeout per 9 is down because obviously he's being picked up more, rather, I should be saying, by the opposing batters. And you could clearly tell. And we know Canning doesn't have overly dominant stuff. It's just about location and really how unique he is with mixing up his pitch mix. He has not been able to do that nearly as well as of late, going back to even that White Sox start that I was hoping felt like an anomaly. But in the back of my head, I'm like, this might be the start of Canning not having so many great starts for us. And that is, in fact, true. He's at a 1.6 whip over this span. And the K per 9 is down, too, from 9 to 7. So, yeah, I'm not loving what I'm seeing right there from Griffin Canning. You know what I'm also not loving? This Mets bullpen. Weak and hacks. You know, as Jerry Blevins did a fantastic job on the initial remarks that he shared on SNY's postgame show today on, you know, it's not red flag yet with Mets bullpen, and I agree, but I think we are certainly in yellow flag territory when we look at the continued issues with guys like Ryan Stanek right now is at a north of a 5 ERA, which pisses me off so much. In case you guys don't understand what's going wrong with Ryan Stanek, there are various things that aren't going well with him consistently, but one of the main things is that he's not locating his splitter well at all, and everyone just sitting heater on him. Regardless of if he's throwing 100, it doesn't matter in today's game because they're going to make you pay. And yes, folks, that is Jared Young. Jared Young came in for his pitching debut, the same Jared Young that's been batting DH for the Mets, batting from the left side. He allowed a hit, had a walk, and got out of it unscathed. Why? Because he's a dog. Shout out Jared Young. Biggest takeaway on the positive end out of this entire series is what it feels like. And hitting-wise, again, this is how the ball game ended. Leaves a lot to be desired when you have nothing but effing zeros. Literally, look at the amount of guys that could not hit a lick. Could I hit a lick today? Alvarez hit a lick. Why? Because it's Father's Day and he just became a dad. So he had the dad strength at minimum to give us at least one base knock. Again, the bar was low. But there was any positive on the offensive end to take away from this ball game today, specifically, everybody, it was most certainly Luis Angel Acuna going 2 for 3 there, especially against Shane Baz, where everyone else was not able to get nearly enough done. Again, Juan Soto gets on base 3 times via walk today, and a run can't come in to score. The Mets were walked 3, 4, 5, 6 effing times in this game, and you mean to tell me that they could not get a single thing going? That is correct. Acuna, however, looked perfectly fine at short, while we saw the surprise start initially for Francisco Lindor at DH batting leadoff, but then Luis Torrens came in actually to pinch hit for Lindor later on in this ball game, everybody. One final thing before we get this party started by breaking down everything, let's give a quick shout out to our awesome friends and sponsor here at SeatGeek that has you covered with all of your ticketing needs. Now, folks, if you're like me, you were absolutely depressed to be at Citi Field the past couple days, but thankfully, SeatGeek not only has you covered for Mets losses, they have you covered for Mets wins in the sense that you can go to any Mets game through their app today at your fingertips. And all you have to do, folks, with SeatGeek that has over 70,000 active events to choose from, making them the #1 rated ticketing app in the game today for a reason. Why I love them so much and why you guys should certainly utilize them for Mets tickets. Maybe just not at home over this past weekend, but I will be there this Friday. And that was all courtesy of my great friends at SeatGeek there in Philadelphia against those Phillies. And how they're going to make it happen is by their easy utilization of their app, everybody. And what I love so much about SeatGeek's app, which again really separates them from the rest of my opinion, you guys know this by now if you've been following the platform, it's as you guys can see right here, it's how easy it is on the grading scale system in their app. Red to green, 1 to 10. If it's in the red in the 1 through 5 range on the tickets, you're not going to be like them. They're not a good bang for your buck. If it's more in the 7 through 10 and the green, a great bang for your buck, and you should seek those tickets there in the SeatGeek app. So whether it's for Mets tickets, concert show tickets, comedy show tickets, you name it, everybody. If you want to save some dollars there on your next Mets ticket purchase or whatever you need, SeatGeek, our friends here, is going to have you covered. So head over to the description description down below here. Click the link that has the SeatGeek link with Wardy10. It's hyperlinked, so if you have the app already downloaded, it'll automatically add 10% off your next ticket purchase. And shout out, as always, to our great friends at SeatGeek for being an amazing sponsor here on the platform. But folks, without further ado, let's talk about this godforsaken series. I know I was trying to push it off as long as I possibly could. And you guys, I'm seeing a lot of discourse in the chat already about Tyler McGill as to what the Mets should be doing there. I told Wardy beginning of the year he will get a shot, get lit up, and be sent down. This is exactly what happened because his AAA numbers suck. If you're talking about Kranick, I'm not exactly sure where you're alluding to because Kranick's AAA numbers last year weren't bad at all. And he was barely in AAA this year. He had like 1 or 2 innings in AAA so far this year before getting called up. That's if you're talking about Kranick. I don't know. Let's see. And shout out my guy Steve in the chat. As always, Dante, you know you are in the Mets show looking for an argument, so you expect everyone to take it. All right, let's calm down. Let's calm down. Steve, happy Father's Day. Love you. Dante's been a longtime follower here, too, even as a Braves fan, if I'm not mistaken. Let's just play nice, all right? I get it. It's very easy to get frustrated on this Sunday of Father's Day. It's gloomy on the East Coast. It's rainy. It's depressing, i.e. the Mets' entire weekend of baseball. But it doesn't mean that we got to get too crazy out here. So let's be good. Please, everybody. Please, I beg. Do it for me. Don't do it for you, do it for me. The same reason why you're watching is the same reason why you should do it for me, and I love you and thank you so much for doing that. Dano Caps, great member, how you doing? As always, we got RMX in here. Why do the Mets get the worst umpires? Because sadly it's more of a universal thing. Today's game is horrendous, and until we get to challenge calls consistently, it's going to continue to look horrendous. Unless it's embarrassing on Father's Day, come on, it sucks. It 1,000% sucks. It like 1,000,000% sucks. Mauricio ain't going anywhere. 100% agree. Yeah, Ronnie hitting that bomb yesterday helped solidify his mainstay a little bit longer, and now that Beatty's at least out day to day, even if he's ready to go, true return for the Atlanta Braves series, there's no denying that, you know, as of now, Mauricio's not going anywhere immediately, but it does beg the question as to what will the Mets' decision be once Vientos returns, because right now, you can make the argument that should the Mets just send Jared Young down when Vientos returns and keep Mauricio and Beatty on the roster and just get crazy with rotating these guys, or do you not want to hurt their development by doing so? That would be insane. If that actually happened, the Mets would have Acuna, Mauricio, Beatty, and Vientos. The 4 kiddos basically all in the squad together, all rotating in different spots. I don't hate that idea, but I also don't love it either because I just don't want to see anyone's development get hurt. But then you say to yourself, they're already kind of in their mid-20s, so it's like, how much development are they really hurting with the exception of Acuna? And then you're like, okay, that does make sense. But all right, guys, enough of the tangent. I just don't want to talk about this game. Kevin came with the $2. I was talking about Nunez, not Kranick. Gotcha. Thank you. And you weren't wrong in the sense that Nunez's AAA numbers did transfer over a little bit to the bigs in the sense of the walk rate. Thankfully, that has went down since then. And the Mets will consider Nunez sooner rather than later, I'm sure, as they sent down Justin Garza before this ball game began today because Garza pitched for the Mets yesterday that we saw. And they brought up Ty Adcock. And Ty Adcock wasn't terrible today, but I don't like Ty Adcock in this Mets bullpen whatsoever. I mean, literally at all. The same way I hate the Mets when they have a 3-game set at home with a roaring crowd. The crowd was literally sold out the first game of the series, folks, and the Mets sadly lost in dramatic fashion with your guy Wardy in attendance by a final score of 6-5 after they had that 4-run lead. But let's break down this ball game, folks. Let's talk about everything that was so terrible about it because I'm so excited. Can you guys tell how excited I am to talk about the Tampa Bay Rays curb stomping the New York Mets over a 3-game span? I know you can tell. But as we saw there, we're going to rapid fire this puppy. I'm not going to be along with it at all. I just want you guys to hear some of the play-by-play, especially when we evaluate Canning and what went wrong for him today if you didn't pay attention. Broken Gesture was fantastic meeting you and your daughter yesterday, my friend. Thank you so much for chiming in. So sorry to see that you were in attendance for these games the way that we were as well, but you know what, at least we came together as a Mets community, right? It's been a hot minute since us Mets fans have been upset for a decent stretch of time, more than 24 hours about anything. Josh Lowe with a leadoff single to kickstart this ball game. Then we saw Brandon Lowe, not related, strikeout swinging there, on a called strike 3 by Griffin Canning. Then we see Junior Caminero, who has been a beast. Funny enough, Juan Soto, one of the best players out of the National League, right? He leads all the National League in double play balls in 14. That is over 4 more than what he had last year with the New York Yankees. Funny enough, who leads all of the American League and all of baseball? It's Mr. Junior Caminero. And the crazy thing about Junior Caminero is that he is not only the man that has the most double plays in all of the American League and baseball, but he also has a lot of home runs. And he had 16 home runs entering this game. He had a tank against the Mets at least once already this series. And before this series ends, of course, he would get himself another one. But not today, at least not in the first inning. He would get it later on, however. Caminero grounds out into a double play, and that does it there. In the bottom of the first, the Mets get a one-out single from Brandon Nimmo. He steals his 5th bag of the year, and then we would see Alonso strike out there to end the inning unscathed after Juan Soto would ground out, because Soto always grounds out in his first inning of the ballgame. It's like pretty much standard with Soto right now, even when he's playing well to a degree. And that was an unfortunate knuckle curve that we saw Mr. Pete Alonso strike out swinging on, down and away. Nasty pitch, but just was nowhere close to the zone. Let's see, how you doing, RZ? Thank you so much for chiming in. Wardy, so Kenny has had bad four out of the last 5, so we all know about McGill. What will they do? That's a great question. That's what we're going to talk about more in today's show, folks, because this is a collective effort on the lack of pitching by the Mets, everybody. The Mets starter ERA this series alone against the Tampa Bay Rays was just under 7. They were with inherited runners on. 5 of the 9 inherited runners scored. Horrendous. Team opponent batting average for the Rays was 315, and the bullpen ERA was 6.6 for the Mets. Not ideal, and again, give credit where credit's due. In the case of the Rays, they've been playing very good baseball. They're 39 and 32 on the season. The Rays are just that kind of team that might just mess around and crack a wild card spot if everything goes right for them this season. But in the case of the Mets, we're not just trying to crack the wild card spot. We're trying to win the whole damn thing. And it's honestly good to get series like these every once in a while, just to further reaffirm what the Mets need to do right and what they need to maybe fix and adjust about that, especially when they have the early adversity that they're having right now. And I know it's only June. You guys don't see me screaming, right? There's one thing that I think you guys can appreciate, even though I know a lot of you guys love my ranting, is that I'm not going to go out my way to scream my head off and rant, even in a series sweep for the Mets, when this is the first time that they've been swept this year and they're still 18 games above 500. They've had a lot of things going right. This was an abysmal series. Don't get it twisted. But there's no point in me yelling when the Mets haven't warranted much of any yelling throughout the good majority of the season. The Mets warranted that endlessly the first month and a half, 2 months of the season last year, and then it was, pretty much smooth up until we got all the way to the end there and the LCS. But as we continue on, everybody, in the second inning, we would see Aranda get on with a walk, and he killed the Mets this series as well. Jake Mangum, the former Met who killed the Mets this series as well, got on with a walk. Again, Griffin Canning just getting behind batters, not looking good whatsoever, locating his pitches. Jose Caballero gets on. It's bases loaded for Meisner, who grounds into a force out to make it 1-0. A wild pitch by Canning, horrendous job, allows Jake Mangum to score. It's 2-0. Danny Jansen with an RBI single makes it 3-0 because it's batting practice on Canning. A Taylor Wall strikeout and then a Josh Lowe ground out ends it, but not before. It's a 3-0 Tampa Bay Rays lead right as this ball game began, everybody. As we continue on from there, in the bottom of the second, the Mets go down in order. In the third, we would see Lowe ground out. Caminero get on with a walk. Arenado gets on with a second time as many innings like Caminero, this time with a single. They flip-flop. Junior had a hit last inning, or maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. Disregard. Jake Mangum, however, grounded into a force down that allowed another run to score. Quickly 4-0 Tampa Bay. As we get to the bottom of the third, Luis Angel Acuna gets the offense start for the Mets with a single up the middle there. Love to see it. Lindor then with a walk, so you go from the number 9 to the number 1 batter there. Brandon Nimmo then strikes out. Juan Soto gets on with a walk. It's bases loaded, everybody. Bases loaded. 2 outs for Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso works a 3-1 count. Has ball 4 that he swings inside on, gets sorted off, just hacks it away foul on 97 inside. And then we see Shane Baz get him swinging. And the worst part of it, everybody, is that he struck out on the foul tip, and this was an at-bat that he absolutely should have had. I mean, that was 99, don't get me wrong, absolute gas by Shane. He got under and got out, and his velocity is nasty. That's why I knew he was going to be an issue for the Mets today, regardless of his north of 5 ERA entering the series. He's a young, exciting, electrifying right-hander for the Rays. You know he's going to be good at some point, if not already. And he absolutely cooked Alonso and the Mets there, brutal at bat. You go from being 3-1 in a perfect hitter's count. You don't take what should have been ball four for you. Instead, you continue to hack, and that leads to a strikeout in the Mets strand. Bases loaded there, and already have multiple runners left on base in scoring position to begin this ball game. As we get to the fourth inning, we would see one of the only clean innings, if not the only clean inning, by Griffin Kennedy, as a matter of fact, as he had a 1-2-3 there. At the bottom of the fourth, the Mets go down in order. Back-to-back strikeouts, Tyrone Taylor, Brett Beatty, no bueno. And the fifth, Josh Lowe gets on with a walk. Caminero gets on with a one-out walk. So 2 on, 1 away. And here comes Max Kranick. And again, it's not Max's fault, but he gets thrown into the fire right away. And Kranick, who did not look sharp a couple days ago for the Mets, gives up a double right away there to Aranda, his 13th of the year. That makes it 6-0, and those runs would all be charged to Griffin Canning. Jake Mangum grounds out, and Mr. Jose Caballero flies down. That does it for the inning. And that pitch there that Aranda ripped was a four-seam fastball that was just down and in, and it was perfectly placed as long as he was on it. 95 was a little flat, not a lot to love there. Love Max, but he did not look sharp today again since coming back from the call-up, and that's where we see a little bit more of the weakening of the Mets bullpen. And that right away, in my opinion, felt like the true nail in the coffin. 3-0 felt somewhat the nail in the coffin just because I wasn't liking the vibes today. The Mets not getting a hit there with Pete Alonso. Bases loaded situation there that inning prior. And then this is what happens, everybody. This is what happens. An inning prior, the Mets don't score with bases loaded. An inning later, we see, bam, it's 6-0 Tampa. And that's where the Mets shoot themselves in the foot, because if they pounced that opportunity, they could have tied the ball game, if not, at least make it a one-run ball game. That's what it would have been if Alonso had to say a single opposite field. But instead, neither of those things happen, and then we see the Rays get up 6-0 early in this ball game. I felt like it was going to be over at this point in time, and ultimately that was a reality from the start of the ball actually being first thrown by Baz and Canning in this one. But nonetheless, everybody, the Mets would try to rally back, but it would get from bad to frustrating to worst. The annual Mets midseason meltdown, John, that would only apply if you didn't pay attention to the Mets last year. So clearly you didn't, and it's showing, because I don't know why in God's name an Atlanta Braves fan is going out here talking shit when you just had a 16 strikeout piece from your young right-hander and couldn't even perform for him. What is this? Jacob deGrom 2018 treatment, buddy? Kick rocks. We'll worry about you, John, in the Atlanta Braves series starting Tuesday. If you take that series, you can talk your shit. Until then, I don't want to hear. You got no right. Continue to talk down from the basement in which you're currently in. As we continue on from this ball game, however, folks, it would get worse for this Mets team, because we would see in the bottom of the fifth for the Amazons, we would see Luis Angel Acuna get on with a one-out walk. That's all she wrote, though. Nothing else happens. In the sixth, we'd see Meisner with a leadoff single. Taylor Walls strikes out for the second out of the inning. And then after the challenge, we would see it would be overturned. Thankfully, Alvarez got the nice pickoff there on Meisner at first. A great pickoff there from Alvarez to Alonso to Meisner. Just gets the fingertips, just gets the tag in time. And that would do it for the final out of the inning, everybody. And then as we get to the bottom of the sixth, let's talk about what the Mets didn't do. And that was after getting a leadoff walk with Juan Soto on base yet again. Of course, Alonso grounds into a double play. And I don't say of course like he's been doing that all year. I just say of course because that's how abysmal this past weekend's been. And Dante, that wasn't directed at you. You got, again, if they're gonna swing, I'm gonna swing back, Dante. That's how it's gonna be here. Choosing to gamble on. Trust me, there are many things to be frustrated by with the gambling of the bullpen with Mr. Mendoza and Paul Blackburn in particular that we saw with Clay Holmes. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Let's see here. Yeah, it is politics-free zone. I didn't see anyone talking politics, but yes, we're not doing anything political here. Goes without saying. If you want politics, go watch your favorite news networks, because I can genuinely care less. And no, I don't want to hear your takes, because I don't give a shit. As we get to the seventh inning, everybody, we would see Josh Lowe fly out, because the Mets do not score in the sixth after the McNeil hit by pitch, after Tyrone Taylor grounded out. Then we would see Josh Lowe fly out, Brandon Lowe get on with a walk. Ty Adcock gets a couple outs there to end the the 7th. In the bottom of the 7th, Ronnie Mauricio comes in for Brett Beatty as the pinch hitter because Beatty exits this ball game prematurely due to that right groin tightness, and Ronnie gets on with a pinch hit single. Shout out Ronnie. Had himself a bomb even when I was heartbroken a day ago or so, and even today came in with a pinch hit. So if there's any positive that I take away, it's from the Youngins today. And then Luis Angel Acuna going 2 for 3. Ronnie Mauricio going to 1 for 2 there in his at-bats in this one. Top of the 8th, no one scores there for the Rays. Bottom of the 8th, the Mets had 2 on via walks between Soto and McNeil with 2 outs, and Tyrone Taylor, who's been really good and late in close situations, runner in scoring position situations this year, just sadly couldn't even get there this time. Top of the 9th, Ryan Stanek came in, and it got bad to worse. Ryan Stanek gives up a leadoff walk. He strikes out Josh Lowe. He gives up a single to the other Lowe, this time in Brandon. Then he gives up a bomb to Junior Caminero, his 17th home run of the year, 9-0 Rays. And how does he give this home run, you might wonder? His first pitch, sweeper. Hanging sweeper. Inside. You guys want to see where this pitch was? I know you don't want to see it, but I'm going to show you it anyways, how frustrating this was. And again, this is baseball. It's going to happen. I'm not hanging my head too low on it. It's like anything else in life. But let me just show you guys this. First pitch sweeper. Middle of the zone. Middle of the zone in the sense of where it is in the chunk of the plate. But obviously, far in and absolutely pulled. The craziest thing to me is this is the same Caminero who pulled on a Tyler McGill sinker yesterday. Unbelievably well. It was down. Was it down or up and in? It was clearly, I think it was in. It was in by a good chunk, and he just turned on ridiculously. Today, he did the exact same thing again. Let's see. And thank you so much, G-Money. I appreciate that a lot. Again, same to you and yours, my friend. Really does mean a lot. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Rays record does not show how good they are. I mean, the Rays are 39-32. I don't think anyone's thinking the Rays are a bad team. I'm sorry, but you're a very casual baseball fan if you ever thought that the Rays would, be a slouch heading into this series, right? I expected the Mets to win this series, but the Rays are a good team. Even with them having dropped their past 2 games entering this matchup, entering this series, if I'm not mistaken, I was expecting Tampa to be hard-nosed because with the exception of the Francisco Alvarez dramatics there against the Tampa Bay Rays in May of 2023, in which your guy Wardy was in attendance for that game, with the exception of that, the Mets have been abysmal against the Tampa Bay Rays, as they were last season as well, before we saw Mr. Why am I blanking on his name now? Randy Arozarena get traded. He killed the Mets. Do you guys remember last year when the Mets were in Tampa and they were down like 8 runs in the first 2 innings? Jose Quintana's out of here in like not even more than an inning. Brett Beatty hits like 2 home runs in the ball game. The Mets rally all the way back and lose by like a run. Like, the Mets have had some really, really tough matchups over the past couple seasons against the Rays. It's kind of been horrendous every time that they either come to Citi Field or to a degree when the Mets are in Tampa. I don't like playing the Rays because they're a very, very good, very savvy, small ball mentality minded team. And that was it for the ball game, folks. I'm not going to show anything else, talk about anything else about it. The Mets obviously did not get enough going there in the 9th inning, and they go on to lose by a final score to 9-0. The Mets were 0 for 7 with the runners in scoring position, 12 left on base. Kind of bad, kind of really bad, everybody. And then when you look at the entire offense, there's just a lot to be desired. Just between the piss poor errors that we saw in this series by Tyler McGill, especially, that McGill error was so bad. It was so bad. I mean, it happens. I know you're trying to work quick. You're trying to work on the fly. It's nothing personal to Tyler. Love him still. But like, I do that as the joke. When you do that joke throw to someone or your pet and you drop it right behind you, that's literally what he did. So between some really bad fundamental baseball, and between some really, really bad starting pitching and some really, really bad hitting with runners in scoring position, this was the Mets' demise, everybody. And we're going to get into further just how bad it was with the Mets' collective woes in the series, what we need to highlight here, what the Mets can try to do better about this. KC, thank you for the $5 haul. I appreciate that. Sweep isn't end of the world, but real concerns. McGill and Canning, last 5 starts can't be ignored. 29th with runners in scoring position can't be ignored anymore. I don't think the Mets are overall 29th in scoring position with runners in scoring position. That's factually incorrect. Their batting average with runners in scoring position is not good. I know that much. It's bottom feeder in baseball for sure. But overall, though, in scoring position, the Mets as a collective offense aren't as bad as you think. They just have had these continued woes where they get so many guys on base every single game, and they only score a fraction of those guys. And I understand that's part of baseball. That's why we look at just the 300 batting average as a good thing, when at the end of the day, 300 3 out of 10 doesn't seem too great when you break it down that way. But when you say 300 is kind of good in baseball terms, it's like, okay, that it is good. Thank you again for that donation. I appreciate that plenty, KC. But going back to what I had to say on the Mets woes. Offensively, a lot to be desired from this ballgame. So the final thing I'll leave you with offensively for the Mets as the ballgame concluded, everybody. Now we have Francisco Lindor, who is at a 279 average and 828 OPS. Luis Torrens at a 231 average, a 663 OPS. Brandon Nimmo, 244 average, 752 OPS. Juan Soto, 247 average, 843 OPS. Pete Alonso, 293 average, 960 OPS. Jeb McNeil, 264 average, 885 OPS. Tyrone Taylor, 229 average, 619 OPS. Brett Beatty, 219 average, 686 OPS. Ronnie Mauricio, 206 average, 701 OPS. Francisco Alvarez, 241 average, 646 OPS. Luis Angel Acuna, 248 average, 592 OPS. That does it for the Metropolitan offense from today's game, at least at the time you guys may be watching this, or sometime over the past day here, that being June 15th. And pitching wise, the Mets gave up, I can't believe I'm saying this, the Mets gave up 9 runs, 9 earned runs the Mets gave up. Like, I don't even know how to fathom that as a Mets fan, with how good this pitching staff has been this year. It's funky to read, and I don't like it. But in reality, when you take a look at the pitchers on this list, it isn't shocking that you see it be as inflated as it is. Griffin Canning gave up more home runs than any other pitcher out of the American League last year. We know he can be batting practice if he isn't feeling it. Max Kranick hasn't been a major league pitcher up until this season, so it's not shocking that he gave up the early contact. But again, he deserves credit, because if he gave up that leadoff double with no one on, he would have gotten out of that inning unscathed potentially. So bearing that in mind, nothing was charged to him. It was all charged to Canning, obviously, with his 6 earned runs, 5 walks, 3.8 ERA, but a 6 ERA over his past 6 starts. Canning, I didn't even remember to give him a grade, because that's how much I was just bothered by today's game and series. But I'm going to give Griffin Canning, this is an easy 3 out of 10. Easy 3 out of 10. Easy 3 out of 10. Not a good start at all. Not a good start at all. But he won 4.1 innings. So he gets a 3 just based on the innings eaten alone. This could have been a lot worse than what it was still. And you do have to think, would Canning have been worse? Better if he tried to get those final outs of the inning? For Kranick, again, I guess we'll never know, but Max Kranick still did technically go to shutty, which led to the 3.65 ERA. Ty Adcock won 1.2 shutty, but I don't want Ty Adcock in this bullpen, and I will stand on that, okay? I don't want him in here. Ryan Stanek, 0.2 innings, 3 earned runs. Have we reached Ryan Stanek territory, Mets fans, where you don't want to see Ryan Stanek in this bullpen? Or do you think that Ryan Stanek can absolutely get back in the groove that we expect him to, but just going to take some time and maybe less and less utilization in high leverage, which obviously is not ideal, but Stanek doesn't have any minor league options left either, so the Mets' hands are kind of tied as to what they should do here. Remember, the first half of last season, Ryan Stanek was kind of cheeks for the Seattle Mariners, when they're known for great pitching development and doing really well in the pitching end in Seattle. However, Stanek just did not perform for them in the first half that season. He gets picked up by the Mets, and then we saw Stanek start to get in, not a groove right away, because he had a horrendous outing a couple outings in against the Mariners in Seattle, funny enough, if you guys remember that godforsaken series there in Seattle a year ago. But when it came down to crunch time, when it came down to high leverage spots down the stretch, Stanek not only became reliable, but he was the guy that we relied on somewhat most in postseason, when you couldn't rely on Budo, you couldn't rely on Young, and you couldn't rely on a lot of the other true innings eaters needed throughout the postseason run. Stanek entered last season's postseason run with just around a 2 ERA and over 20 innings in the postseason runs he's had with the Houston Astros specifically. So I trust Stanek to handle high leverage spots, but he's just not trustworthy right now. And when you are in a results oriented business, the way that the Mets are, and the way that David Stearns is quoted saying 48 hours ago in a pregame presser that, a week is a long period of time in baseball, because it is. A lot can happen in a week. You can go from a 7-game win streak to a 7-game lose streak. And while there are a lot of games to be had in the course of a 162 season, is not to say that you can't get out of these respective ruts, but knowing that they can be so drastic is what could really find a team going from getting bad to worse to so ugly that they do find themselves in a rut, the way that the Atlanta Braves did in good chunk up until this, up until now. We'll see what they do against the Mets this upcoming series, because we know the Braves have been not so great. And not to get on the Braves tangent, but I just want to relay where they currently are in the standings, because the Atlanta Braves are 31-39. They're 8 games below 500, and they are 13 games behind the Mets of first place. The Mets are also, not the Mets, the Atlanta Braves are also 7.5 games out of the wild card, and they're currently trailing 4 teams. 4 teams they're trailing, just that they're behind, that aren't even in the wild card spots yet. So yeah, again, a lot more baseball needs to be had, no question about it, but that's going to be interesting to see how a sorry Atlanta Braves and Atlanta are going to look, and see how motivated they are against our New York Mets. And if that benefits them, if it benefits us in this stretch, all those kind of things. I'm looking forward to it. I really am, especially with how the Mets have been up until this point in the season, obviously. But that's what you got from the Mets on the offensive and pitching end from this one, everybody. So now let's expand. And usually at this point in the show, I cut things off for replay viewers, but we're not doing that today. Today, I hope that some of the 2,000 to 3,000 people overall that probably watch the show today, because I know that no one is going to care about this damn series after the way the Mets got sadly killed the way that they did. I need to talk about some more things with each and every one of you, because Game 3 of this series, Mets are 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position, right? 0 for 7, left 12 on base. And let me pull up the no highlight graphic too, just so that way it looks better. When we look at yesterday's 8-4 loss to the Tampa Bay Rays, Mets were 2 for 4. Not bad. I can't complain too much about yesterday. I complained more yesterday just about the Mets' lack of good approach at all. Tyler McGill, error, horrendous. I know that he gave up only 3 earned runs, but it should be 6. I'm sorry. It just pisses me off. I will never be okay with the starting pitcher having a costly error that he caused himself, and then you mean to tell me that that same pitcher does not have to have the repercussions of having the earned runs charged on him when he was the man that was the demise of everything that transpired in that play? It just doesn't make sense. And then when you look at Game 1, everybody, this one stunned the most far and away. I was feeling so good thinking that the Mets were going to win Game 1 of this series, get off to a great start here. And mind you, they were up 4-1 until that effing 6th inning. That 6th inning ruined everything. And to pull Clay Holmes at 80 pitches for Paul Blackburn, when I get you want to give Paul Blackburn a look, I get you want to give Paul Blackburn some innings, but at the same time, why do that? You had Huascar Brosman warmed up for almost 2 effing innings. Why do that? And you want to know why Carlos Mendoza did it? It's because he just felt like it was the right thing to do with the Mets up by 4. But have we learned nothing in today's game of baseball? Even with how good the Mets pitching has been, this Rays team ain't no slouch. And they got curb stomped, these Mets team. They got bitch slapped left, right, and center. Pardon my French, kiddos, but it's true. And the reason why they got curb stomped is because they did not know how to handle the adversity of blowing that 4-run lead back to Game 1. They were not the same team since then, and it showed. Even with having very good turnouts in what was an abysmal weather weekend at Citi Field, I think that went in hand, a dark, gloomy weekend at Citi Field, very fitting that the boys didn't perform well over that stretch, everybody. But it's also very fitting that at the same time that the Mets have nothing in unison offensively, even in a game that you scored 5 runs in Game 1, don't have anything to show for in the series overall. Even in a total of a series where your pitching staff, again, was booty cheeks, batting practice, from starter to bullpen, you are absolutely horrendous. It all comes right after we come to find out that Kodai Senga goes down on the injured list. So again, it's the perfect storm. This is normal. These things happen in the course of 162. That's why I'm not here overly freaking out about it. However, there are a couple things that I have great issue with, and I want to share my opinion with them, and I want to know how you guys feel about them personally, Mets fans. Let us know in the live chat and the comments down below. The Mets have had this issue all season long. All season long. And if there's one thing that I've learned as a baseball fan, while also admiring and paying close attention to other teams over the years that make postseason play, that win 90 to 100 games, and then get unbelievably exposed in the postseason. Why does that happen? It's because of the same exact effing issues that they had throughout the entire course of the year reared its head against a superior team that knew how to not only combat them, but to further expose their woes. Do you guys remember what the key factors led into the Dodgers curb stomping the Yankees in 5 games of the World Series? It's because not only the talent on the roster, but it's the talent up here. They paid close attention to all the horrendous defensive hiccups that was thanks to poor lineup configuration by Aaron Boone and the Yankees all last season long. They knew how heavily reliant they were throughout the regular season of the 1-2 punch from Juan Soto and Aaron Judge. They knew exactly where to hit home in attacking that lineup, as well as what to do on the defensive end. Make the Yankees have to play defense. And what are we seeing? We saw a Yankees team get so unbelievably exposed. They looked like they didn't know how to play baseball, and they were out of that series in the snap of a finger, even while having a sizable lead in the same game that they lost in Yankee Stadium. Makes a lot of sense as to why Yankee fans are still hung up on Soto, because he was the best thing to happen to them last season. And no, that's not an understatement. He was far and away the best thing to happen to them that season. Greater, in my opinion, than Giancarlo Stanton, because he was healthy throughout the year and was productive throughout the regular season and postseason. He was greater than Judge, because as great of a regular season that Judge had, didn't matter when it came to postseason play. Soto was Mr. Consistent. But enough of that tangent. The reason why I bring up the Yankees there, the reason why I bring up, say, the Philadelphia Phillies being very boom or bust, is that these woes get exposed when it matters most. So when we see a Mets team that has been consistently not good with runners in scoring position all year long, and yeah, I know a Yank fan isn't talking about losing the poverty Rays when you lost and got walked off by the Boston Red Sox without Alex Bregman. I'm sorry. Score a couple more runs consistently and Fenway. We couldn't do it. I know you couldn't do it either, but come on. Yanks fan, you can't be talking shit when you aren't playing good ball either this weekend. You could if you swept. You can't. The only thing you could talk crap on is when we match up 1-on-1 right now, because you won the first series. That you can talk down on. But getting back to what I was trying to say, folks, when the Mets have been consistently abysmal all season long with runners in scoring position, key close situations, they're just not getting that clutch hit. When I say consistently abysmal, I say abysmal for how talented they are. Like, they should not be middle of the pack and then a bottom feeder as one of the worst NL batting averages in that statistic. It just shouldn't be the case. And the more that continues, and the more that the Mets still win and stay north of 20 games above 500 while having these problems, it will get exposed down the stretch come playoff time, with the exception of what they do at the trade deadline and what they do to obviously adjust their roster and go on from there. But right now it's frustrating to me, because the pitching, I always expected the regression. That's not surprising. We can't expect Griffin Canning to be an ace all year. The fact that if Canning is still a productive pitcher for the Mets by the time we get past the traded line, that's huge. That'd be great to see. But with Sean Manaea and Frankie Montas, who I know you guys have not been loving the rehab outings based on the results. Frankie Montas, Yankee fans know very well. They're used to him being batting practice. Well, he's been batting practice in all of his rehab. No sugarcoating that whatsoever. And while I'm not concerned about that rehab at all, the way that some of you Mets fans are, I will tell you that it obviously is not ensuring that what they're going to get at the major league level is going to be a quality thing. So that's why the Mets and Carlos Mendoza have pushed Frankie to at least one more rehab start, then they're going to go from there. We're going to expand more on that in our content tomorrow, so be on the lookout for it. But then you look at Sean Manaea, who did allow a number of earned runs in just over 2 innings today in his rehab. Again, he still has his ways to go to ramp up. He still has, I would say, another week and a half at least, a rehab ramp up before he returns to this Mets team. Frankie Montas, as we know, still has at least one more outing, then they're going to go on from there. So this is where we have ourselves a very unique situation if you're the Mets. You're 18 games above 500. You have a gauntlet of games beginning this Tuesday against the Atlanta Braves in 2 series and the Phillies 1. And I love these matchups. I'm really looking forward to them all. Genuinely, my only concern is that the Mets are hitting a little bit of a low right now on both the pitching end and to a degree offensively. But I only say to a degree offensively because I'm really not overly concerned there. I think they're going to get a little bit of a fire, finally getting a chance to play more of their rival teams consistently versus a Rays club that they only play basically one series a year, and that's that. You know, it's hard to get up to play the Tampa Bay Rays because there's no really added incentive beyond you just want to win in any way, shape, or form. But when you go in Atlanta, you have more than enough incentive. Even if they're 8 games below 500. You want to kill them. That's the first thing you want to do. I want everyone destroyed. That's just how it is. Nothing personal against my awesome Braves fans in the chat that are dope, and we love to bicker and go back and forth throughout the year. But to all the schmucks out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Same thing in Philly. When the Mets are going to be in Philly this Friday, I will be there. And I'm telling you right now, I hope it's a great back and forth with fans because rivalry is what makes this game great. But the Mets now have a key opportunity as to what they're going to figure out with their rotation. Because if Paul Blackburn goes out there and if he's booty cheeks this Wednesday, if Griffin Canning next turn in the order is horrendous again, if Tyler McGill is not sharp next turn in the order is horrendous again, what are the Mets going to do? Because there are a couple options. You have the immediates and the Brandon Waddell's, the Justin Hagemans, but you don't really want to go there, right? You know you don't really want to go there because they're exactly that. The Justin Hagemans, the Brandon Waddell's, the et ceteras. The Blade Tidwells, he might be able to eat some innings, but he also might give up 6 to 9 runs. You just don't know. In the case of Noel McLean, Brandon Sproat is less of a certainty. McLean is more of a certainty. But the rightful argument with McLean right now is that who knows if what you're going to get at the major league level with him is going to be much greater than what you're getting from your current rotational options. And then you add in the fact that, again, Minaya and Montas aren't that far behind in their rehab getting back to this team. So can you expect David Stearns to do anything drastic on the pitching end? No, not at all. That's for sure not going to happen. The big debate now is, should the Mets consider one of the youngins at all for the rotation at any point in the near future, or should they stick with their current rotation that they have going with guys like Clay Holmes, obviously, David Peterson, what we see there in Griffin Canning, Tyler McGill, was Kodai Senga, but no Kodai, so Paul Blackburn. I might be missing on one more arm in there, but you guys know exactly what I'm trying to say here. So pitching-wise, they're going to have some things that they're going to need to fortify. And listen, this is a good reality check. I think more than anything, everybody, I'm definitely not happy to see the Mets being swept. No one's going to be happy as a Mets fan to see the team swept. I'm sure Warriors going to the Philly game, that's a loss. It might not be GSU, only because I've had a good road record, and the Mets did win on the last game that I was on the road in LA. So if you lose Friday, you can blame me all you want. Otherwise, I'm not exactly sure. Let's see. So Soto pitched since he can't hustle for a fly ball. And I'll worry about Juan Soto. You worry about Aaron Judge and your Yankees, considering that's a pretty hard time for you to do so right now. Let's see. They have had very low bro energy this year. I've noticed that. Very much so. I've seen Yankees fans go out of their way to pull up to Citi Field constantly this year, take photos and try to mock them. I'm like, what's the end goal here? I'm like, are you still that sour about getting your ass kicked against the Dodgers? At least show up against LA a little bit. The Mets have done that. We can say that much right now. GSU, it absolutely is. You haven't been doing the math clearly, and that's okay. It tells me in direct line what I need to know about you, GSU. It's okay. Yes, we lost in the NLCS, but we actually played competitive baseball. You looked like a fucking T-ball team going up against the Monstars. It's apples and oranges, my friend. Come on. One final thing I do want to say, folks, because we are going to get out of here soon, is the following. The Mets heading into this Atlanta Braves series is going to be really, really interesting. I think it's the added incentive that's going to bode well for them and for me as a fan. I look forward to rivalry matchups more than anything. And the same way that I ride high with this team when they play well is the same way that I ride low if they don't play well. So, if the Mets do not have themselves a good Atlanta Braves series, rest assured, Wardy's going to have his first rant of the year. And rest assured, Wardy's going to tell you all about it. And rest assured, I'm going to let you hear it. No doubt about it whatsoever. But hopefully that isn't the case. I'm excited to see what they can do. And we're going to be having a lot of content dropping throughout the course of the week here on the Mets front. Starting tomorrow, there will be a video dropping around the AM, if not 1 o'clock or so latest for you guys. So be on the lookout for that on a lot of various topics, including a Braves series preview. So be on the lookout for that, everybody. But beyond that, I really don't have a lot else to say. So if you guys have any certain comments, questions, or concerns that you guys would like to relay that are not Yankee fan related in the chat, I will gladly do exactly that. Let's see. Plus says in the chat, win, lose, or are a draw. Same issues all season so far. Bad runners in scoring position hitting. Now the rotation is faltering. And that's exactly my point. And Russell, thank you, my man. Appreciate you as always. And my point here, everybody, is exactly that. Listen, if the Mets are not going out there and performing now with runners in scoring position, when are they going to? You know, like, is it going to happen next week, the following week? But I feel like the more we push this off, the more we push it away, the more we're going to find ourselves in a situation sooner rather than later where it's either going to get exposed or they're going to fix it. It needs to be one of the two, because I will not feel good as a Mets fan if the Mets cruise throughout the season, win 90 to 100 games, and we don't really overly stress throughout the good chunk of the year because they just play consistently good baseball. Even in that scenario, I'm not going to go into playoffs forgetting the same issue that they've had all year long. Because again, those same issues will come back to bite you. That's what separates the good teams from the great teams. That's why the Phillies have not been able to get over the hump. That's why the Yankees have not been able to get over the hump. That's why since the Atlanta Braves won the World Series the last time without Ronald Acuna Jr., why they have not been able to get over the hump again. Look how long it took the Dodgers. It took the Dodgers spending $1.2 billion in one offseason alone to finally get over that hump. So yeah, I'm really intrigued to see how things are going to go for this Mets team, but that is the one thing that needs to be fixed. Pitching wise, the Mets have an abundance of options in the house that I like, and I know that they're going to toy with. We might just go through a bit of an up and down on that front. I don't think the Mets are going to be collectively the best pitching staff universally all season long, but I could see them still getting back to being the best pitching staff throughout the majority of the season. I know they're going to have their flows, their ups and downs, just like any other team. How can we fix the pitching and runners? The runners in scoring position is different from the pitching, because the pitching, you have reinforcements coming. From the runners in scoring position, it's tough because you really don't have a lot of immediate reinforcements, with the exception of Jesse Winker. Jose Siriu just had a setback, as we know, that we're going to talk about more tomorrow, among other things. It's really more just indicative on the Mets approach, as the Mets have a very home run happy approach. And what's kind of crazy to say is the Mets are reliant of the home run ball. It is true. Something that I wish the Mets would be in the past, because they just did not have it at all. They are now, but too much so. The Mets are unbelievably reliant on the home run ball. And it's one of these things that it's electric when the boys are cooking. It's awesome. Madeline, thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's electric when everything is cooking the way that you want it to. But when it's not cooking, it's bad. And the Mets don't have the fundamental baseball consistently in their lineup to separate from the slugging. They have a lot of guys looking for lawn balls, and this was naturally going to happen this season. But again, we're seeing it get exposed. And Tyrone Taylor can't be that clutch guy for you late and close in situations every single time out there. It needs to be someone else. And Jeff McNeil looked great that we saw there in the previous series, and he didn't look terrible this one. But again, he's not going to clutch up and be this god every series for you with runners to scoring position. The offense comes down to the core three in Soto, Alonso, and Lindor. The Mets ride through them. And collectively, how did those three batters perform this series? We saw one RBI from Juan Soto in Game 1. We saw in Game 2, no RBIs from the core three. And in Game 3, we got no RBIs from the core three. So if the Mets do not have the key production from Lindor, Soto, and Alonso, you simply should not expect to win the series nor the games. It isn't going to happen. It rides through them. The same way that the Yankees, as my Yankees fan in the chat sees this right now, knows they will never get over the hump of actually winning a World Series unless their captain leads the way to do so beyond regular season. I know that's a broken record, but it still holds fairly true, and that will also hold true for the Mets with their own respective issues, and they can't break out of them. The defense has been suspect as well. The Mets have not had great fundamental defense. And Mauricio obviously leaves a bit to be desired defensively. He's still better than Vientos at times, I feel, but then there's other times where it's like, I don't mind Mark out there at the hot corner. So that's where I think we're going to have a greater discussion as well to see what happens when it comes to Vientos, Mauricio, Beatty, Acuna. If they all stay on this roster and the Mets rotate them, it's going to kind of be, survival of the fittest on that front. We don't have AAA pitching, trust me. And if you actually thought that, then I don't know why you're just pushing aside how far the Mets got with that so-called AAA pitching and less depth last year. Like, that's just the most common sense of all. Just tell me you don't actually pay attention without telling me you don't pay attention. That's okay, though. It's very on par for Yankees fans talking about the Mets. But I will leave you guys with that. I want to thank you all so much for watching. A anticlimactic, a dark and gloomy here series finale to break down and series overall between the Mets and the Rays. But we look to see them get back to their winning ways, hopefully starting this Tuesday against the Atlanta Braves. Until then, everybody, I will have content dropping for you guys tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. Whether you loved or how you hated how this weekend ended, thank you so much for chiming into the content, and I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great one, folks, and as always, no matter what, let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.